All right. Welcome back to the Restaurant Growth Show podcast. Today, we're diving into the evolving world of brand loyalty and how technology is reshaping it. With us is Matt Smolin, the co-founder and CEO of Hang.com, the first omni-channel solution in loyalty. Matt, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing pretty fantastic for a Friday. Not too bad.
Very good, good.
Excellent. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to our listeners, and then we can get into what you do for a living.
Yeah, I think you summarized it pretty well. Hey, everybody, Matt, co-founder and CEO of Hang. We're really powering the next generation of loyalty programs, and the restaurant industry is one that is very near and dear to my heart, and one that we've seen a lot of traction in.
Fantastic. So you've got an interesting story, obviously just doing a little bit of research on your background. How did it come for you to go from a finance guy to tech, but not fintech? What was that journey like?
Oh, well, I was working as a trader, first at an investment bank and then a smaller like prop trading firm. Ended up moving out to a large fund in the Bay Area where I was making investments into private equity and venture capital funds and got more involved in some like the direct venture capital stuff. And through that, just learned a lot about startups and technology and entrepreneurship and realized that, I can also create my own ideas. And so quit that to start a company that actually wasn't Hang, but really kind of launched my journey into tech and startups.
Right. So that had something to do with live events. Why don't you tell us a little bit about sort of the origin story that ultimately became Hang?
Yeah, so I started a company in the live event ticketing world, kind of off the background, or like from being a trader, I learned a lot about what efficient market structure was. And as a live event goer, I always thought the ticket market was quite inefficient. And so created kind of a new market structure for ticketing that made it easier and cheaper for fans by making just like ticket prices more transparent and also made it easier for sellers too. And so launched that business, got to a place where we were selling like the most tickets in the Bay Area for the market that we were in, saving fans tons and tons of money, moved it down to Los Angeles. We were expanding it out, doing some really cool things. And COVID essentially killed that business because you can't really run a ticketing business when there are no events. And so from there, I had to kind of like pivot and find something else to do at the time because we were so ingrained in the live event industry. We started doing stuff with these like virtual events, worked with actually a lot of big artists from like Billie Eilish to Dave Grohl to Diplo, but wasn't really a passion of mine. And I kind of knew that that business didn't have staying power given that it's like virtual events and more of a COVID thing. And, a lot of those artists that we worked with actually were also dealing with brands and we were dealing with brands with them and saw a pretty large opportunity around loyalty. I think like part of the idea of what we had around ticketing was the ability to like much more easily trade tickets and see market demand and all these things. And one of our initial ideas around, disrupting loyalty was the ability to actually trade rewards. And so that was something that sparked my interest. And the deeper we got, the more issues we saw just with brand loyalty and all the issues that brands face today, especially in a world where, acquisition costs have basically doubled over the last few years with changes to iOS and pixel tracking and all these things. And for most brands out there, whether it's a restaurant or not, in a world where it's harder than ever to acquire customers, you got to find ways to get more value out of the customers that you have.
That's amazing. Why do you think Hang excels in the food industry, specifically in restaurants?
Well, I think, the general idea, I don't know if it's only tied to restaurants. I'm really interested in restaurants for a number of reasons beyond my own personal passion, just because, we can show a case study in a couple of weeks because the frequency of a restaurant diner is a lot higher than maybe that of someone buying, from their favorite apparel brand online, which enables a lot of interesting factors. One just being you can test out a lot of cool things and new features and get a really tight feedback loop. But I think in general, there's just a lot of issues with loyalty. And if you look at, we could go on a website or we could just go online and look at 20 loyalty programs that and I promise you, they're basically all the same exact thing. It's a loop of spend money, earn points, eventually get a reward. And so we really wanted to change that and create a far more engaging experience that's worthwhile to a customer. On the other side, most loyalty programs give everyone the same rewards, they give everyone the same experience, they give everyone the same offers. It's really one size fits all. But the world that we live in is becoming more and more personalized. My YouTube account knows more about me than I know about myself. Only fair for a restaurant to be able to give a customer an experience where they feel special. 30 years ago at your favorite restaurant, loyalty was not about a discount code. It was that barista or restaurant owner knowing your name and your order. And how can we bring that back, leveraging new technology to make people feel special, but also in many cases, create better performance because brands are just overpaying on offers when their customers have a higher perceived value on something they would love that actually cost the brand less. And the third piece, which I think also is pretty meaningful now in the restaurant industry, is that historically loyalty programs have been built through one single channel. It made sense when you were a four-wall store, but in today's today's world, your customers are engaging from you and buying from you, engaging with you and buying from you across a number of platforms and channels. And specifically in the restaurant industry, in a post-COVID world, 30% plus of your orders come through third-party delivery apps, which these restaurants have no idea who their customers are in that light, because the brands are like, the DoorDashes and Uber Eats just don't want them to know that. And so the ability for us to connect a restaurant's business across their in-person POS system, maybe their online apparel CPG business, hosting and engagement all across social media, and also being able to attribute third-party delivery is incredibly meaningful in any ability for a restaurant to really continue to build on their business and optimize any sort of loyalty that they might have.
Right. Especially when you think about third party to first party and they having control and being able a little bit to be a little bit more personalized and knowing that person, right? So it's quite a thing. So Matt, what makes using AI to create rewards more personal, and how does that help increase customer retention?
Well, so it's kind of this bigger point around personalization, which is just the fact, again, that I think brands, and it's more of a fact, they just spend way too much money giving everybody the same vanilla offer or rewards. And the truth is, like, we as humans are all different and we have different interests and different preferences. And the thing that I like might be different than the thing that you like. Yet when you think of the biggest, coffee brand loyalty programs, everyone gets the same exact thing. And it's true that if you can actually give people rewards that are more meaningful to them and, scale that in a way where each person can have a personalized offer, they're going to be more likely to come back. And we've seen this firsthand, like even on the promotion side, where most recently we did a study with one of our brands where we gave, half the users personalized promotions that run through our like ML or machine learning engine, and another group that just got the standard promos that the brand was offering. And even though the personalized promos were actually 30% cheaper to the brand, we made sure for the test that they were giving out like quote unquote worse promos. Because they were personalized and each user got one that made more sense to them, the redemption rate was actually 4x or 4 times as high. So the number of ways to really personalize experience, leveraging new technology in a way that can just much more seamlessly make that customer feel seen.
That makes a lot of sense. So what does that look like, that level of personalization?
It could be any number of things. So if you think about from a reward standpoint, I might go to the local coffee shop and I never get coffee, but I always get a breakfast sandwich. And you always get coffee.
Right.
I might have been getting a coffee offer, which was more expensive when all they needed to give me was half off my croissant. And that's what I'm getting now. It could be on a promo side where it's the offer or promo that they're getting to bring you back to the store. But it also can be on the experience side. Most personalization that you see in your big loyalty apps today is just like, hi, blank name. They just personalize like the name versus actually personalizing the full experience and the sequence of the ways that you get things, because we're all, again, different people. And so we might have different things that we care about.
Matt, I'm wondering if we can go back to attribution and lifetime value of a customer. And I'm thinking this is a puzzle that we're all trying to solve, just being in the restaurant technology space. And I'm wondering what your opinion is on the fact that, okay, we talk about a customer coming into a four-wall cafe and their behavior is a particular way when they're in store. But that very same person has different characteristics and different behaviors and norms when they are purchasing on a third-party delivery app, and even more so, a little bit different when they are engaging in a first-party online ordering application. Do you think attribution is this insane puzzle that, like I said, we're all trying to figure out? Do you think it's worth segmenting that one customer into 1A, 1A, 1B, 1C, etc., depending on the channel? Or are we still going towards filtering this one customer into this single segment that we're trying to create?
Well, I don't know a company out there that's not using Hang that can actually attribute third-party delivery orders. I don't even think that's possible today. We've seen that the first ones have been really brought that to market, which is so meaningful, given that I might go to a restaurant 5 times in person this year, and I might order from that restaurant 10 times, and that restaurant has none of that data associated to me on me ordering through a third party. I would say for the most part, like I tend to think that people, behave the same way within a single brand or restaurant. And in many cases, like they'll be ordering for the most part the same foods. I get some foods travel better than others. So I think of it as like you want to have this one data line for each customer. That being said, there should be filters or tags in place on like, which of those orders were order ahead versus third party versus in person.
Yeah, interesting. I want to switch gears a little bit into gamification. What is Hang's approach to gamification of loyalty and rewards?
So yeah, again, when you look at traditional loyalty programs, it's the same transactional loop, which I kind of mentioned earlier, which is like like spend money, earn points, get reward. No one cares about points. They mean absolutely nothing. Like, I don't know anybody who's
I care about internet points, Matt.
what are internet points?
They're absolutely meaningless. Yeah, exactly.
So like no one's ever looked at a menu and been like, oh, I'm going to add avocado because it gives me 7 points. Because the feedback loop is so slow. For most people, you're punching a card 9 times before you're getting any value. It could take a year before you level up. And if all you're doing is sitting on a points balance and you've never been rewarded for it, you basically have gotten nothing. And so when we think about engagement and retention and feedback loops, we look at other categories that are far better at engagement and retention. And that's, a category like free to play mobile gaming. Honestly, some social apps are pretty good at this too. Companies like Duolingo as well. But in mobile gaming, users level up in seconds and minutes, not weeks and months. And you get dopamine hits through animations and rewards that are actually valuable and usable in the game. I'm a Delta Sky Miles user, but it's me and an airline. In a video game, it's all the customers or users playing together and competing against each other. It's fostering real community. And lastly, as a restaurant, you only have so much margin to give away. You can only give away so many discounts. Games are notoriously amazing at creating reward sets that have a high perceived value to the consumer, but at a very low cost, unlocking a new level you can play. Digital apparel, status, community. Even McDonald's was really good at this for McDonald's Monopoly. You get Park Place and you feel like you're halfway to $1 million and you start looking on Zillow at the house you're going to buy, but you're never going to get it. But it's fun to fun. And so when we think about what we're doing, we want to create, feedback loops that are really fast, where instantly you're getting rewarded and you can feel the value of it. And it's really easy to understand. Nobody's going to read instructions. It's just not how we operate anymore. Teach you how to play the game by playing the game itself. So we use a number of different features to create faster feedback loops that are really rewarding. And I'm happy to go into some of them if helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, are you guys looking to create the next McDonald's Monopoly? I mean, obviously to me, that's like the holy grail of gamification and relating that to a brand, specifically a restaurant. Is that the goal, or maybe you can elaborate?
I think that's a feature. So it's like we've created the right infrastructure that a brand theoretically could build out something similar to a McDonald's Monopoly, like out of the box, which is pretty cool. And maybe it's not exactly the same. A big part of the allure of McDonald's Monopoly is like everyone knows how to play Monopoly. And so building your own game is going to be a little different. But yeah, we have things like puzzle pieces where you have to collect all 4 before you get the prize, and interesting ways to get there. I think one feature that we've seen that works really well, we took from inspiration from gaming, and the fact that in gaming, there's this concept of a loot box mechanic, which is, when you beat the level, when you come back to the app, when you take this action, you get this box. And you don't know what's inside of it, but it could have, something very varying ranges of value. And you open the box and it's a cool explosion animation, and it's, one of 5 to 100 different things. Well, it's kind of like a slot machine. It's kind of like opening a pack of cards, but it's really easy to understand. And we've built this for loyalty, where now every single time I go to my favorite restaurant, I'm not getting this points balance, I'm getting this digital gift. And the more I spend, the bigger it is, or the bigger the expected value is. And after I eat and after I pay, I can open it. And when I open it, it has this cool explosion and one of 5 to 100 different benefits that could be anything from a discount to an item on the menu to an experience. And we found that this works incredibly well because it's just so easy to understand. Every time you're going, you're getting a gift. And guess what? If I don't open the gift and I come back, now the gift doubles in size. And next thing you know, I've come 5 times and the reward's worth 5x, but I've spent 5x to the brand or with the brand. So the ROI is positive.
Fascinating.
This really reminds me of, do you remember a show called Let's Make a Deal? I'm dating myself, obviously, but no?
No, yeah, I do. Sorry, I'm nodding on a podcast.
Oh, sorry.
I definitely do know it. It was a little before my time, but my dad, I think, like that game show. So.
This is what it reminds me of, like what's behind door number 1, what's behind door number 2, and everybody loved that show. Also, they were all in costumes and whatnot, and probably high on some kind of amphetamines, but that's another podcast. Anyways, I love that model, the element of the unknown. What am I going to get? The curiosity. I love that. That's fantastic. Jose?
I find it fascinating, and I just wanted to clean up here. I actually did the Monopoly and ate a lot of McDonald's trying to get it, and
we all did.
As a kid, I actually bought like 2,000 pieces on eBay when I was like 12 years old, thinking I was going to get Boardwalk.
You tried to hack. You tried to hack Monopoly. That's awesome.
So, I mean, this is definitely something that it's it's a differentiator. It's really sounds really, really good. What's next for AI and loyalty programs?
Well, I think it's, AI specifically, I could speak to. I think there's a lot of innovation that's just happening and just new ways to use technology to build better software for brands. And I think like when you look at the team that is like the steward of relationship at a brand, it's really the marketing team. And that's definitely true in restaurants. And I think when you look at marketers' ability to engage with the customer, like let's just take it back again to the mom and pop shops of the past. Like they were so great at cultivating relationship and that warm smile that they gave you when you walked in and then knowing your order and all these things. And as these businesses, grew, they gave up on relationship for scale. And that's had to do. And I think now when you look at, a large QSR chain that might be like 1,000 locations, they definitely have an engineering team, but that marketer is tied to that engineering team. If they want to make a change in regards to experience, it's just comes down to being able for the engineer to do that. And I think like when you look at these engineering roadmaps, good luck getting something done in a quarter, maybe even a year. And so what you're left with is the ability for a marketer to do very little, like really just messaging, maybe through text or email. And so one thing that we're really trying to do is enable a marketing team at a brand, specifically at a restaurant, to have so much more flexibility in how they can engage with a customer. And so, I think on the AI side, like there's so many cool things happening around generative AI. And we want to be at a place where, currently we have a great, almost like CRM, almost like innovative CRM that can enable a brand to more easily connect with a customer and change more than just messaging and actually change experience. But you still have to kind of use the nuts and bolts and put it together and add in the logic in a place where it can be like straight up text to experience, where you can literally write out exactly what you want, and leveraging AI, that experience will come to life on the customer side. And I don't think we're too far away from that.
No. I agree. I think, I mean, one thing that we talk and think a lot about is how, how can you put into with generative AI, the whole branding guidelines and suck it up and then spit out whatever you need, right? It is already possible to a certain degree, but I think this is just the infancy of it. So what would you recommend for marketers with this new world that you are leading into and trailblazing?
I just want to add here, as a marketer, I love this marketer-centric approach because we're always the last to be thought of. Like, who cares what the marketers think? Like, just here's what the product is. Like, go and sell it. Go and figure it out. And now with this approach,
get me leads.
Let's put the marketers in the center of this so we can empower them. I absolutely love that.
Amazing. Yeah, like we've tried to, because again, a lot of the software that brands use and like a lot of the stack from especially restaurant brands, like for the longest time, it wasn't in the cloud. Still, some POS systems are not in the cloud, and there's like a server somewhere in someone's basement. It's wild. And so over the past few years, as so much more of the B2C stack has gone to the cloud for marketers at restaurants, it's created a lot of opportunity. And so for us, when we saw that happen, we just wanted to connect all those systems for you, because even currently, even if they are in the cloud, they're not very context aware. You're kind of have to using them in a siloed fashion. And by us integrating all the POS systems and CRMs and social platforms and tools, we can create a unified data layer that just pipes right through. So you can understand each customer across all these different lenses. And now that we're able to add like what we call our DX builder or digital experience builder on top of it, that enables you to add in a number of different digital experience modules, from the mini game to the mystery box to the quest, it becomes really easy for that marketer to be in the driver's seat and actually change experiences on the fly.
Wow.
You hear that, restaurant marketers? Hang is the loyalty program for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so good, so cool. But then on the other side, I mean, most restaurants, like, two questions. The first one is Hang for any size of restaurant? And the second is, what would you tell restaurateurs regarding get a marketer, or you don't need one, or just get on Hang?
That's more than two questions, Jose.
That's what I said. Well, okay.
It's all good. It's for all shapes and sizes. We have single location restaurants. We have 100 location restaurants. We're close to signing 1,000 location restaurants. So it's really across the board. I found that it's less, the importance of the software is less about the number of people. Like it's going to be ROI positive for wherever your business is. We have a number of plans that would make it a beneficial spend for your team. And it's obviously gonna be a lot cheaper if you have one location versus 100. And so because of that, like we've seen that all of our programs are quite ROI positive. Honestly, when you account for both loyalty, software costs, and rewards, we're seeing like a 7 to 8x across the board, which is pretty insane. So, we do have more self-service tools launching pretty shortly, which would allow us to expand more so on the 1 to 3 locations, because we have been focusing a little bit more on the bigger groups. But that being said, anyone could use it. And I would say it's great to have marketers at your company. I can't speak to a single location restaurant owner. We have a few companies that we work with that are like 5 locations where the CEO is the marketer, and they might know their business better than anybody else, and that's great. But I'd say having marketing in your business is really important. It's just about like spending efficiently and knowing your strengths and stuff like that. And I'd say like in regards to loyalty, I think every single branch have a loyalty program, but this word loyalty is almost like kind of icky right now because so many loyalty programs have been so terrible. What I think you have to do is reevaluate the program that you do have and see, is it actually creating incremental value? Right? Because at the end of the day, if you just give out a ton of rewards and the same person comes back time and time again and uses them, they were probably going to do that, come back anyway. So loyalty becomes a cost center. It has to drive new value. And so honestly, the way that most brands actually evaluate loyalty, the golden standard, which is used by all the top chains, used by the Bains and McKinseys, is quite flawed. The way that they do it is looking at the loyalty cohort versus the non-loyalty cohort and seeing how much more are the users in loyalty spending. McKinsey will tell you that the best programs increase spend by 15 to 25%. And we're like 3x or 4xing that. But honestly, I think that's a terrible way to loyalty because you're basically taking your best customers and putting them against your worst. I'm a customer who comes once a week. You're going to put me up against some guy who's in town for, 3 days. And so the way that we try to evaluate our programs is instead to look at users in loyalty, compare those users to themselves before they join the program. That's a true lift. And we're seeing like over 60% increase in spend once users join Hang programs.
Right. Wow.
I could say that is a truly fresh take on a bit of an old model of loyalty, and it's really refreshing to hear peeling back the curtain on what is loyalty really worth. And Matt, I think you've done a great job in articulating the value and your approach to loyalty as a whole. So we are running a little bit short on time here. Matt, now's your time to plug away. Where can restaurateurs connect with you? What's your platform of choice?
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been great. So, come to hang.com. You can sign up there and request access. You can find us on LinkedIn at Hang, or myself, I'm Matt Smolin, Smolin, or I'm on Twitter at what is estimated. So it's estimated with 2 T's. Thanks so much, guys.
Gotcha. Thank you, Matt. Speaking of plugs, this podcast was sponsored by Dine Pricing, real-time restaurant profitability. Dine Pricing uses artificial intelligence to improve restaurant profitability by dynamically updating menus across digital channels like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. That is all the time we have for this episode. Thanks again to Matt for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. Until next week, say goodbye, Jose.
Goodbye, Jose.
That's great, Red. Matt, thank you so much, man. That was awesome. We would love to have you back on the show in the near future and let us know how things are going at Hang.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care.